In this series, I speak with 8 incredible thinkers in Africa, people working to solve complex challenges across the board. We discuss the civic space in Africa, the physical and online spaces where people come together to exercise their rights in shaping our societies. The civic space is important because it provides everyone with an opportunity to contribute to a thriving, inclusive society. Join us for these diverse topics, from ensuring technology positively serves society to ensuring that communities come together to increase women and youth's participation in decision making. I'm Natasha Kimani. What are social movements and what drives them? And especially in the context of what you do with Pollicy, why is it important for us to build local movements that are relevant to our lives?
So it's a difficult and easy question because a movement can be of one person or can be of many individuals or many organizations, but they're all brought together by a common cause. And in terms of social movements, the common cause here is a cause that does not lead to more harm in the society or a cause that does not bring about other difficult issues to be addressed in the society. And looking at, again, the definition of movements and why Africans need to continue to be organizing. We look at some of the people who've led different movements in the past. We have Thomas Sankara, who really advocated for a Pan-African way of leading our lives to build a stronger Africa. And he also advocated for women to be recognized as, contributors into our societies and as experts in their own right. So it's important that we recognize a movement can be of one person, Thomas Sankara Hay, or can be of individuals, several individuals, like something happening right now in Kenya on End Femicide. Kenya, you can check it out online when you look at that hashtag.
Thank you for that. Irene, talk to me direct. Tell me, how do we ensure that we also close the class divide? Because sometimes social movements are a privilege for the privileged few in society who can afford to insulate themselves against the challenges around, speaking up and speaking out. How do we ensure that we come together collectively to fight for a common good? And how can we ensure success? What would you say are the key markers of a successful social movement?
I would recognize the efforts made by our forefathers, your grandma, my grandma, when they came together those days and they went to the chief or the local leader to tell them, we want water, we want piping. So we need to recognize those who came before us first. Without that recognition, then we really need to learn our lessons. Second thing that also becomes a very good marker for just strengthening movements is to also move away from urbanization and recognize people in rural backgrounds also have the different challenges. Strengthen those that are coming out of those areas. Try what I spoke about, languages. Try and use the local language as much as you can. This way, even a person who's not well educated is able to join the conversation with confidence, because you're speaking like them. The other thing, to recognize the leaders in those backgrounds and not go and set up your own shop. You need to utilize the resources you find there. You need to...
so don't erase local voices.
Do not erase the local voice.
I really love that. And also, I think what I particularly love is that you said this began with our forefathers. So social movements are African. They're part of our fabric.
Yes.
So perhaps that's a narrative we need to continue talking about.
Yes.
This is not new to us.
It's not new to us. It's the way we live. We are communal. We eat food together. We build together. We solve problems together. So movements do exactly that, but on a grand scheme of things, and also really trying to work on these challenges with the governments of the day. So I believe there's a very huge opportunity if local government, again, can also be empowered, can also be educated to recognize the power of local champions so that they do not have a rift or they feel that someone is trying to set a new camp. No, they can work hand in hand, If you consider your chief back at home, if you consider your local MCA, I think they have a very huge opportunity to organize and work with the local movements that are springing up.
So it's actually beneficial to involve local leaders.
Yes.
Irene, you're young. And you're leading a fantastic organization. How do you ensure that a lot more African civil society organizations are debunking what social movements are and not using languages and speak that alienates young people, and more so use platforms that are accessible to young people? For example, I was told the other day that anyone who uses Facebook is a dinosaur. The platforms to use are TikTok, etc. So how do we ensure that civil society organizations are using platforms that are relevant to the lives and experiences of young people?
So what I can say about that is that for sure technological advancements go very fast, but tech policy and work around tech issues goes very slow. But it's the work of civil society and the movement at large to really put themselves in the shoes of these young people and see how and where they can meet them. The work that we do at Pollicy, for sure, when we do our research, we use very simplistic language that even when you're out with your friends, you can play a game. For instance, we have games. You can play a game and you can see from the different personas from some of the games how you can keep yourself online, how you can debunk fake news, how you can also, we have a game on choose your own fake news, digital safety. We also have a game on just understanding how human trafficking happens online. And as you're engaging with these games, you will learn a thing or two. Just something I would like to share to civil society is we have no option. It's now beyond our control. We must embrace and use technologies to advance some of the challenges we have. In many of the organizations whose strategic plans or who are based on, strategic plans, they really need to see and rethink how they can also include technology issues so that when you're programming and when you're working and you're engaging with your stakeholders, you also consider these advancements in your work, and that Africa is not forgotten in the global narrative on technologies altogether.
Does it also matter, Irene, that when they're creating and crafting these social movements, that young people need to be in the room? Because oftentimes, you could use language and then you take it to young people and that doesn't make sense at all. How can we ensure that we get more young voices, more diverse voices into crafting these social movements? Are there any recommendations you could have?
Yes, a good example, what I've seen, movements that are coming up, or those who are old, it's important for them to have a wonderful succession plan. And in their succession plan to also center communication, where they communicate the importance of power sharing, the importance of having new members join so that they can also share their ideas. This way, multiple issues are going to be addressed because when you're together, you have brilliant ideas as opposed to a few individuals. The other thing I would say about really centering youth is to also note that they're the future and they're the ones who are going to lead tomorrow. If we do not engage them early enough, then they may come in when it's a bit too late.
You're a technocrat, Irene, and that means oftentimes you're in an office somewhere writing policy, writing briefs in very sophisticated English. Sometimes do you take off the high heels, wear the sneakers, roll up your sleeves and sort of get into the trenches?
I think I can confidently say I'm a sneakers person.
I love it.
I'm always in the streets.
Okay.
Our work really, especially in the new plan we're getting into at Pollicy, really has to continue working with the communities and at a broader level because honestly the digital divide is becoming bigger. So we have no option. We are going into informal settlements of Nairobi, of Kampala, of Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, of Dakar.
What are some of the things you've learned as you've engaged in those informal
I've learned that we need a Sheng word for artificial intelligence.
Okay.
The second thing I've also learned is that because Swahili, especially Tanzanian Swahili, is quite robust and there are very many words that we always feel like, what's the word for maybe data science in Swahili? It's already there. So
What's the word? I don't know.
I've forgotten.
Okay.
But I feel strongly if we continue talking in our local languages, we'll mainstream these words and they'll be able to build the internet. You see, there's a connection there. And this uptake will enable us to close this divide that's already existing.
This is my very last question to you, and it's a personal one. Which social movements on the continent have inspired you as an individual and why?
Okay. Definitely, I can think of one led by domestic workers in South Africa.
Okay.
Domestic Workers Union, or the movement really, before they were formally unionized, they were able to fight and request for recognition, and the government was able to recognize them, of course, led by different individuals there. From that, different domestic workers in the continent were also able to steal ideas and also, start creating a movement. This way, many domestic or house managers in this region are able to know that even if the union cannot support me, I'm able to go to this movement that will enable me to address some of the issues or challenges I'm having. So I really adore this movement because it's comprised of, hey, our grandmothers, our moms, our fathers and our grandfathers, and they have somewhere where they can sing, where they can laugh, they can crack jokes beyond what they go through in their everyday work. Yeah.
If there's a parent listening, because I'm sure there'll be quite a number, and they see their teenagers or young children wanting to participate in social movements, and they're like, this will destroy your career. Is there any advice you'd have for them?
Yes, for sure. My dear parents, I can say something small in Swahili.
Yes.
Kukua activist sio kitu mbaya. It's not negative.
Yes.
It's something because you're calling for transparency and social accountability, which is going to protect and also promote the well-being of future generations and ourselves as we exist right now. So it's just to encourage your children in any way that you can, encourage them to organize well in a better way, because sometimes we project our own feelings. You are not able to organize then, so you feel your daughter, your son is not supposed to. Just encourage them and let them be. You never know, you have a wonderful Thomas Sankara in your own confines.
So the courage and strength to organize begins at home.
It begins at the household level. The Gen Zs are very big on wellness. I think we all know, and this is what they're also bringing into the workplace. I purposefully attend wellness events that are led by young people, especially in the Gen Z bracket.
Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful. I've been able to attend a few. Some yoga here, there, we fill out some wonderful forms. You set goals in this way. It's beautiful to also learn from them.
I love spending time with Gen Z. It's like a breath of fresh air. And also just their unbridled confidence at life. And speaking about Gen Z and a younger generation, we've spoken about AI, we've spoken about tech. How do you bridge the generational divide? For example, I've just gotten my mom to learn what YouTube Shorts are. It took me like 6 months for her to get the hang of it.
Hey, you got there.
Finally.
Yes.
I almost gave up. How do you then bridge that generational gap and ensure that the older generation is not left out of conversations? Previously, you gave an example of the domestic workers in South Africa, and those were older men and women. And, we shouldn't assume that there's no role for our grandmothers to play when it comes to social movements. So how do we take them along with us?
I think the key thing in all these conversations for intergenerational differences is patience. I feel all generations really run out of patience.
Yeah.
We tend to forget there's a generation who waited for you, Natasha, who waited for you, Irene, or waited for my mom to get there, or waited for our president to get there. No, we need to be patient with one another. We also need to be mentors, really, natural mentors, because there's some people who feel like it's a lot of work to pass down information, to pass down a skill. It's important that you pass down these skills because there's someone highly reliant on them. Hey, we don't want to erase some of the work that has been done on the continent.
Absolutely. You've been listening to Talk to Me Direct. Follow and subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.